All right, everybody, we're going to do a quick video on how to reconfigure the outputs for your S-Bus PWM receiver, for your Express LRS PWM receiver using the Lewis script this time. I apologize for the extra cords and stuff. The transmitter battery is low, so it's got to be charging while we're doing this kind of. Okay, so we have here our Express LRS receiver. This is a little device you can use to see the channels output as they move around. So if I plug into here, we can actually see the channels signals coming out. Okay, so we'll do that real quick and just kind of demo this. I'm going to plug it into channel 2. Okay, and we get a link there. Okay, so if we zoom in, we should be able to see once I change this output here. Okay, we can see that changing. Okay, as I move the right stick. All right, so it's just a way to see the output of, let's see here, sorry, the output of a channel as we change from low to high. Okay, so right now this receiver is in kind of the default mode. Each set of pins is an output in PWM. What we're going to go over right now is how to change the output in the receiver to be a different format. The reason why we might want to do that is because during the class we'll use our FT Auralite flight control stabilizer board in our larger planes to give us self-leveling and kind of assist with the beginner mode type modes on our larger plane. And this flight control stabilizer board, you need to give it some kind of serial input, as in giving it all the channels on one set of wires. Okay, we can't just plug in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into here. It doesn't work that way. You have to have one wire that sends all the channels from the receiver to the flight controller, and then it can understand those signals and send them out to the airplane. Okay, so this was the reason why we're basically doing this setup, but it's also nice to know for other things you might run across. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the transmitter here for a little bit. If we go to our system menu, okay, and go to our Express LRS tool, we'll get our normal tool kind of set up here. Whoops, and it's still armed. Okay, excuse me. What we're going to do now is going to scroll down here on the script to other devices. Okay, I don't know what version is the version where they implemented this, but I'm on 3.3, so 3.3 and above, you should be able to see other devices in your script. And other devices are things like your receiver. So if we click on that, we see our Radio Master ER5A and A or C. Basically, mine's an A. Okay, I'm going to click on that. It's going to bring up some settings in the script for this receiver. Okay, and so right here at the top you see protocol. We can set another protocol besides the normal PWM to be output from the receiver. Okay, so if I click on protocol here, we can select inverted S-Bus, we can select SUMD, DJRS Pro, CRSF, okay, inverted CRSF. What we want to select is S-Bus because that's what our flight test Auralite has selected, or understands, sorry. Okay, so we're going to go to S-Bus. There we go. Oops, S-Bus. Okay. And you see it kind of load there and save that setting. And again, this video is just a rehash of the other video I have where you do all this setup in the web interface on your computer, which I find to be much easier. But I figured to make this video just for completeness sake. You can do it both ways and set this output up both ways. Okay, so protocol is going to be S-Bus. Fail-safe mode, we want to have that set to last position, not no pulses. Last position means if we lose link to our receiver, there is a special bit or piece of electronic data that will get sent from the receiver to whatever it's plugged into, in this case to the Auralite, that says, hey, I'm in fail-safe. We need that bit to be sent so the Auralite can recognize a failsafe and perform the appropriate action. And so last position failsafe mode is the way we get that failsafe bit sent if we lose link. Okay, so leave that alone there. Telem power, I don't know if this one actually adjusts any higher. Yeah, 10 is the max, so just leave that alone. We already set our initialization rate in a different video, but make sure that init rate here, initialization rate, is the same as the rate on your transmitter on the other screen. They're both 150. Okay. Now we're going on here to this menu that says output mapping. Okay. So here we have output channel, output mode, and invert. All right. So what it's saying is, hey, on channel 5 set of pins, which channel on my transmitter is going to control that? So these are the outputs here. The inputs are what we set on our transmitter to control those outputs. So by default, you kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But if, for example, you wanted to control channel 3 output with channel 8 on your radio for some reason, you can set that to work that way. Okay. One reason why we might want to change this initially is because channel 5 is our arming switch on our radio. Okay, the switch up here that we set up in class. Okay. And so that channel is arming switch. It's not going to be controlling a device plugged into the receiver because it's just meant to arm and disarm the receiver basically. Okay. So for example, on output channel 5, maybe we want input channel that controls that to be different. Let's say 6. Okay. So when we set that, we see a little flash here. It's saving the settings. Okay. And so what that means now is if I want to control channel 5's set of pins here, I need to set something to channel 6. Let's say I want to control channel 5 set of pins with this switch. Okay. So I would set this switch to be channel 6 in my radio, and when I flipped it back and forth, I would change the outputs that came out of the set of pins on number 5. Okay. At a minimal one, that's what you probably want to do. That way you can still use all 5 sets of pins here and have your arm switch. Okay. But for the S-bus output, we're going to show you something a little bit different here. And that is going to go into, we're going to need to choose output channel 2 to start with. So we'll go over here to 2. Okay. And instead of having input channel 2, what we're going to change this to, we're going to go down to the output mode. And we're going to scroll all the way till we get to serial TX. We're going to select that. Okay. It takes a minute to save that. All right. And so now that channel 2 should be outputting in a serial protocol. And the serial protocol we selected, okay, on this screen was S-bus. Okay. So what that does is it basically occupies, a little bit harder to see in here compared to the web interface. Oops, wrong button. Output mapping, there we go. Okay. What that does is it actually occupies channel 2 and channel 3. So we can't use 2 or 3 anymore for normal PWM outputs, like for servos and stuff, because one will be serial TX, okay, and the other will be serial RX. As we see there, it already selected serial RX by itself. I didn't select that, okay. So now we can only use 1, 4, and 5, at least on this receiver, since it only has 5 outputs. So we have serial TX and RX transmit and receive on 2 and 3. So we'll use those with our S-bus here in a second. But while we're in here, we might as well reconfigure channels 1, 4, and 5 for something else, because with a serial output, all of the channels will get sent over that serial transmission. So all of our important channels to move the plane, 1 through 4, will get sent over the serial transmission. So there's no point in having serial channel 1 go over the serial transmission and over the normal channel 1. There's no reason to do that. That I can think of anyways. So we'll want to have channel 1, 4, and 5, or outputs, I'm sorry, outputs 1, 4, and 5 be controlled by other channels in our radio so we can more easily use them. Things that you don't need to go through the stabilization. You don't need to stabilize, for example, flaps. You don't need to stabilize landing gear. You don't need to stabilize a little bomb drop mechanism. Okay, so all of those things can be controlled separately outside of the Aura Lite. It doesn't have to ever know that they're on board, okay? And to more easily set those up so we can just plug them in, we'll remap channel 1, 4, and 5 in the outputs to be a different channel on our inputs. Sorry, my camera's glitching a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go to channel 1. All right, we'll load that up. And we'll see it input channel 1. But let's change that. Let's change that to 11. Be easy to remember, right? Okay, so now if I want to plug something into channel 1 on my receiver, I'll control it with channel 11 on my radio. And we'll go over to channel 4. And we'll do that to 14. Easy way to get these to remember which one's which, kind of. Okay, we'll go to channel 5. And we'll do 15. There we go. Okay. So now if we were to look at the pins on our receiver, basically we would have channel 11, sorry, focus, channel 11, serial TX, serial RX, channel 14, channel 15, and the last set of pins is just to power the receiver separately if you want to do that. So now we have all those different channels set up. We could control them with our radio, right? Our normal channels for flying the plane are going to go through the serial TX and go into the Aura Light stabilizer control board. Okay. That'll control the plane, it'll stabilize the plane. Good, we're golden, okay? But now we have maybe channel 4 and 5 or for our flaps. We can flip a switch and put our flaps down and put our flaps up. Maybe channel 1 is for a bomb drop mechanism. So we flip that and it drops a little foam board bomb. Okay? So that gives us more capabilities. The Aura Light has 5 outputs as well. So by using the 5 outputs here, as well as the additional 3, channel 1, 4, and 5 we configured here, we now have like 8 outputs, whereas before we only had 5. So it's kind of cool to get to multiply the amount of things we can plug in now. We have more options, etc., etc. Okay, so let's show you this. Before we could only get one channel out of the receiver when we plugged it into this little display, if you remember me showing that to you a minute ago. Okay, but now that we've set this up, we should be able to go back here. Okay, we're going to actually reboot the receiver so it saves these changes. Okay, so we're just going to unplug it, and then we'll plug it back in. Okay, and we're going to plug it into channel 2 because that's our serial TX. We want to see if we can see all those S-Bus serial channels on this little display now. Okay, let me change this over to S-Bus. Okay, and there we go. So if we look here on the display, as I move my ailerons, for example, we see the channel 1 moving. Okay, we also see channel 4 moving just because this is for a plane that has ailerons and rudder kind of mixed. It's for the Outlaw, so there's no rudder, just both ailerons. But regardless, you can see channel 1 and 4 moving there. If we go up and down, we see channel 2 moving. Okay, and if we go this on throttle, we see that, oops, we got to arm it. We see channel 3 moving. Okay. So we're getting all that channel information just over one single wire. There's power and ground there too as well, but the white is the signal wire. Okay. So you have all those channels going over one single wire with our S-Bus protocol. That's how you would configure that using your radio Lewis script if you didn't want to use the web interface. Again, the web interface I think is easier, but you can do it in a pinch without a computer by doing it this way. All right. I hope that helps. Thanks.